So today we are excited to kick off the new year with bringing on an awesome guest today, Bill Cheatham from Earth Tek LLC. He's going to talk to us about running a drone business, how he's got going, how he started making money with this drone LiDAR technology, and really what is he doing to do all that. So I'm really excited about that guest. But first, a couple things at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the numbers. So
big numbers.
We started the
big
Facebook
money.
group. Bing, 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 bing. We need this. No, we started this group, under a month ago now, Daniel?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Under a month. And now we're at 797 members, which is awesome. So thanks so much for subscribing to our group. We've had a lot of awesome questions, comments, and discussions going on inside the Facebook group. So if you're seeing this on another platform, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, somewhere else, join the Facebook group. And Daniel, that name is... What?
It's Commercial Drone Mapping and Surveying on the Facebook.
On the Facebook. Yeah. It's pretty exciting. So Daniel, I've seen you've been very active in the comments there. And
what you're saying is I need a hobby.
Your hobby is this Facebook
My
group.
hobby is this. Yeah. Yeah.
You make money. Well, honestly, I think for a lot of people watching, people got into drones doing a hobby.
Yeah,
right?
It's fun. It's awesome. Shooting lasers from the sky from a freaking robot.
Yeah.
It's like Terminator, but, a little bit less casualties.
Thank God. So today we're going to be talking a lot about Earthworks. And so I think, Daniel, you actually have a lot of experience doing a lot of construction and a lot of progress monitoring with drones, not just LiDAR, but all different types of drones. LiDAR. So why don't we, for the audience, I think it'd be good especially for you to tell them, because you're an expert at this. And what exactly are people using these drones for in construction / earthworks, and what is earthworks? And we'll get more into that once we bring Bill in. Yeah. But I think, Daniel, for the audience sake, you're going to do a good job at getting them primed for Bill.
Well, if I don't know what's going to happen, because I'm all we've got on this. No, but that's fine. So I really like the use of drones in any use case to replace something you're already doing, right? I mean, there are a few things that drones can do that nothing else can do, but you can do earthwork calculations and that kind of thing other ways. But with drones, first of all, it's faster. Second of all, it's more accurate. But kind of backing up and just kind of giving an overview of what this is even for. Why would you even do this? Where does the conversation even start? Yeah. On any construction site, you go through the different stages of a construction project. You go all the way from the very beginning when you maybe have an initial survey, whether it's a boundary survey or ALTA, and then you go through and you do, conceptual engineering. You figure out, is the project worth it that I want to do on this land? Then you move into the next stage and get permitting. When you start to get your permits, you get a topographic survey, and that, could be whatever method the surveyor on that project used. But depending on how accurate that is, it can determine all the rest of the money in the project. And this is a lot of money. I mean, this is millions of dollars on large projects. Mm-hmm. Just a local example for me. I'm between Atlanta and the port of Savannah, so one of the busiest ports on the East Coast. There's a lot of industrial land near my house. There's 17 million square feet of industrial space going up 10 minutes from my house. And you think about how important a survey would be, how important every little bit of accuracy would be across 2,000 acres. I've done 17 projects over $1 million each, all next to one another. Mm-hmm. So the more accurate your initial survey, the better. But what we know is sometimes that's not the case. So why should I, during this construction project, fly LiDAR? For one thing, a lot of people already do photogrammetry on construction projects just for monitoring, even for just, did you put the silt fence up by December 12th, 2022? Well, it's January 3rd and it's not there and it wasn't there in the map. So no, you didn't. So documentation is super important in construction. There's a lot of potential lawsuits. There's a lot of different stakeholders, and it's a lot of money. Anytime there's a lot of money, there's a lot of documentation. There's lawyers, do your stuff.
So progress monitoring. So this
progress monitoring with photogrammetry.
And honestly, a lot of people do this photogrammetry. So drone deploy is the big thing. People use drone deploy for.
Yeah, and I use that. Yeah.
Yep. And now people are doing more LiDAR. And not to cut you off, but you did say one thing that I think is just a note for everyone listening. It's a general thing you just said, but you said it. You were talking about, I wrote it down, there's already money being allocated to some of these line items.
There's already money to spend.
Yep. So I think as far as making, in the the ethos of our podcast here, drone money. Like take that home, take it to the bank, guys, because really what you should be doing when you're starting a new business, and this is something that we do ourselves at ROCK Robotic, we always target things that already have a line item. So if there's already someone's making an invoice or a quote, and there's a line item for something on there, and all you're doing is doing it with a drone, and you're doing it better, faster, cheaper, 2 of those ideally, not all 3, that's where you should strike. You should always keep that in mind when you're running a business, a startup or a new drone business. Make sure what you're going after is already a line item. Start there. Then get into
the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, low-hanging fruit, and people already pay money for it. So asking them to pay money for it, well, they already do it. So you're not really asking them to do much new here. So,
and if you're already doing this the other way, I mean, if you're a construction firm, general contractor, surveyor, whoever it is, if you're collecting this data with a 4-wheeler and a Trimble GPS unit, you don't need to be doing that. You can have that guy who probably knows how to do 10 other things that you also need. Go do something else.
So let's talk a little about that. So we talk about progress monitoring.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of photogrammetry is really good at this. And then LiDAR also gives you the geometry, the elevations and everything. Yeah. What else are people using the LiDAR for? So that's kind of progress monitoring. Now we have this earthworks topic.
Yeah. When you start out on the project, when you're doing that initial survey, you don't necessarily know, when I say you, the people working, the stakeholders on that job, they're not with the surveyor during that time. They can't necessarily vouch for the data at the time, and they may get a survey from someone else. A lot of times things change hands. We'll talk to people, throughout our podcast, different guests, where I've run into this too, where they say, yeah, we've already got a topo, it's done, just use it. And then it's like 4 feet off across 100 acres. That's like $500,000 worth of dirt.
So wait, so what you're talking about, this is before I even won the contract. I'm bidding. And so I need to do an initial design bid. And so I don't have that topo even at the bid stage.
Yes.
This is before we're even building. Like we haven't really finalized plans here. I'm bidding on something.
Right.
And I don't know what the land is. So
it's like writing an insurance policy to yourself.
Right.
Saying, okay, is this, we'll talk to Bill about building the model, but they build the construction model based on the initial topo and the design. And the design's based on the initial topo. How important is that initial data? It's super important. But most of the stakeholders involved in this in this project had nothing to do with that data. But it's the basis for everything going on. So even if it was, let's say me and you were working on the same project, we don't know it. If you go do you're going to do it right. But if I get hired by contractor X or developer Y, and they say, well, I don't know Harrison. I've heard good things, but I don't know him. Before I go spend $7.5 million building this apartment complex, I'd like to make sure that I don't need to spend $6 million. So you may pay somebody $10,000 to go fly the site. And if it looks good, then you go, great. I'm sure that I'm spending $7.5 million for a good reason. And then if it's different, then you go, oh, well, we've got to have a conversation about this. And you're able to bring that value to a client before they ever set foot on site.
So I like this the lineage of the project, right? So someone wants to get some bids, right? See who's going to build this. So when I say you, I'm saying you're an engineering firm that's going to design and build. And so you want to make sure that what you're designing on and how you're going to bid this job before you even win the contract is going to be accurate. And then we have the actual, okay, we won. Now it's time to start building. And then now there's ongoing progress monitoring for looking at grade, so you got to move. Grade is like how flat the ground is, right? And the slope. Right. So we're going to move a bunch of dirt around. And, in that whole process, now you might subcontract that work out to somebody. And now you got to make sure that was done correctly. And maybe sometimes you're even getting some of these large projects, they bill about the volume. So they're charging you money by how much dirt they're moving. And if they're not moving the right amount or they're quoting too much, now you have another tool you can even check on that progress. Or you go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's funny to me when we talk about like, what's the way to do this now? Well, there's 15 different ways to do it now. Yeah. But the two that I see a lot, and this could vary for different regions, but there's a dude sitting on a metal chair by the exit with a clicker and he counts dump trucks. And, half the time is like this clicking. So he's missed a few dump trucks. That's how they're verifying how much dirt's moved either in or out of the site. Or maybe they're doing photogrammetry or something like that on a set schedule. And I've been that guy before, but a problem with that as opposed to LiDAR, especially since LiDAR is a lot more affordable now, and it's a lot more scalable, is you're going to continually have to reset control. So you're just providing two things, really. One, increased labor, because every single time you go out there, I feel like, and every surveyor in the world knows this, if you go mark control on a construction site, it will get destroyed in like 5 minutes. There's no chance it's going to survive till the next time you come out there, the next week, the next month. And I've run into that
like personally. Target, actually. I think it's actually a game.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
You got to try destroying it. Like,
yeah. See that orange thing? I'm going to hit that. Yeah.
It's a big axe.
Yeah. And so I ran into that when we talk about progress monitoring. I was doing a site when I was working in surveying. It had nothing to do with surveying, really. I could have been anybody doing it. It wasn't a stamped product. It was just an internal number that they were doing with a four-wheeler and a GPS before, but we switched to drones because it was a large site. And so I'd go out every month on this. It was a subdivision like Bill's going to talk about. It was like 75 acres. And I would fly the whole thing. And the first month was a base. And then every month we'd calculate how much dirt did they move each month, because and everybody that works on these kind of projects knows you basically have like a Gantt chart, like a long progress chart up in the construction trailer. And it's like, okay, by May the 8th, we should be at this point. And this is helping those guys know, okay, well, are we really at 40% of the job, or are we at 70, or are we at 12? Because if they're behind, they can move equipment around. And if they're ahead, they can move equipment around. And so it's just a lot of different uses for the same data set across the project. And you want to do that on a schedule. You want to be there like every week or every 2 weeks or every month. It's whatever their budget and their project. If I've gone and done like Amazon warehouses, which I have, they're a lot more big budget site. They're a lot more time sensitive. Like they've probably got stuff shipping there. So that can cost more. But if it's, like you said, housing development, maybe that's once a month. Industrial sites usually are quicker. Yeah, all that stuff as we progress through helps people stay on track, and it helps money be allocated. And then we get to the end, then we have as-built, right? And so Bill's going to talk about that a little bit, but you're able to accomplish the same amount of work with the drone, and you're limiting the amount of time it takes, because every time these people are waiting for information, they're usually stopping work, and that costs people money.
I really like this. So this is like we're hitting on this pre-quote, before you even bid a job, make sure you're going to bid it correctly. So these are, I'd say there's like, when you think about doing a map or LiDAR, there's like the direct, thing that it's doing, but then there's like indirect things, which is like, now I quoted the job, I saved a bunch of money here, or I'm making more profit than I thought I was, one or the other. And then this other thing is scheduling. So that progress monitoring, providing accurate ability to monitor the progress, to schedule. Because, honestly, it's probably nothing worse than having the next team come out there to maybe start doing a foundation or something. And
we're not done.
Grade's not done.
Yep.
So, you can't really. But now we all these, hourly contractors are on job site. You're losing money, right?
Yes.
So there's nothing worse than having, time's money, and having a crew on site that didn't need to be there. And so these are the big financial things that we're helping with here. And then, just actually in the physical, if you are the company doing grade, actually building what we call machine control files. So actually using this 3D data to create a file that goes into your scraper, your big machinery that's actually moving the dirt. And it's going to use precision GPS to actually control the scraper to actually grade the land. So you're using this file that you generated from the LiDAR. And then so that's actually just using the data in the process. And then there's like the actual indirect, but still very direct benefit of the bidding, the progress, and then understanding in your head, for everyone, I think it's really important to just wrap your mind around this topic. I know there's a lot of people that do this every day. So to preach to the choir, you guys get it. And I think I want to talk to everyone who's kind of new to this, and, wrap your head around this process and how much money this can be. How much money can this be?
It's a lot. I did a apartment complex, and I remember them fighting me over $1,500 for a photogrammetry map. Yeah. And then the next week they sold the thing for $68 million.
Yeah. So there's a lot of money going into these kinds of projects. So it's, and saving one day or saving a week or, the initial bid or any one of those steps could be, tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars you're saving.
Right. And most of these companies don't just have one job site. So we have to keep that in mind.
Right.
If you are able, my theme for this year, I know I probably will say it till I'm blue in the face, but you're able to scale these operations. I think, sorry, somebody was calling me. We'll just do it live. I should have just answered. It was a sales call. I should have just done it live. But what we've got is we're going through this process, and, at every single point, there can be a huge expense, and it can go on different people. So in the same job, and usually sometimes their interests are opposed. I'll just say it like that. If you've got the developer hiring the contractor hiring a subcontractor, each one of those guys needs to check the next guy. So you may, and I've run into this a lot, just doing consulting, is you can get hired by different people on the same job. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but go fly it again, or just use the same thing. It just sometimes
or don't.
or don't. Whatever's in your contract. Contracts are important for that. But we've got in every segment of this, specifically LiDAR can make things better than photogrammetry. Photogrammetry is great. I have no problem with it. I was doing like 50 photogrammetry projects on construction monitoring a week across 7 pilots, just earlier last year, I guess. Oh, I can't say this year anymore. Weird.
Yeah. So you were doing that. And then, because I thought it was interesting because you said you started doing LiDAR in every job.
I just switched it to LiDAR because it made it so much easier.
Yeah.
Like I could still create a photogrammetry output from the LiDAR flight. Just make my
camera on there too.
Yeah. And then if I needed the LiDAR, I just had it. It's so weird for LiDAR to be like the byproduct, but it's so easy to do now. And it's so easy to scale that you can do that. You can make it just, do you have data on this? Oh yeah, I already did it. There's no extra work. And I remember the first one we did, it was not that, it was maybe 40, 50 acres. I think we did it for $7,500, and we did it with a 2-man crew, and it took like 4 days. And the client thought it was a deal. And I also did it with a drone, and it took 30 minutes, and we did a comparison. Guess which one was better?
I don't know which one.
It was the drone. The only thing that made a difference, and I will say this is something where, you have to have a complete view of a project. If you go out on a construction site and you're doing an as-built and there's curb, sometimes they just cover the whole curb with dirt. And you can't see it. So the LiDAR can't see through dirt. Of course, neither could the crew. They had to go clean it off.
Right.
So, there's some caveats there, but you're talking about if we would have done a combined, that goes from 4 days worth of 2 men working to 1 day with a drone pilot out there for an hour, and then a couple days with a shovel. A couple of hours with a shovel.
Totally. I think there's that. And so then you're expanding on like some more things that people do to add more data into, the LiDAR. So again, no, there's no one technology that solves every problem. No. So LiDAR,
if you can solve 90% of your problems, that's great. A lot of people
I'll take those numbers.
Just knock on their door and wake them up in the morning and serve them breakfast. And then if it doesn't, they get upset. But I'm like, if I can take your job, if you can get to town with a horse and buggy and now I can give you a car, yes, you are technically still going to town, but it's a lot easier.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Well, I think that this is a good segue. So we're going to just here in a second, I'll bring Bill on, but just a recap, guys, welcome to the Drone Money LiDAR Stream podcast, where we're calling this thing. Yeah. And make sure you join the Facebook group. We have a lot of great comments, great questions. Make sure you leave some questions. If you have some, we're going to answer them at the end of this stream. And also be wary. There's a bunch of, we have some people managing the comments right now. And there is a lot of, spam comments coming in. But you know what? That is a sign that we're doing something right. Yes. Because spammers come to where the people are.
I cannot wait until the Chinese knockoff DVD version of this podcast comes out. It's going to be awesome.
Well, Daniel, they won't be making money because it is free, unfortunately.
No, I'm going to buy it just so I can watch it.
Awesome. So why don't we welcome our guest today, Bill Cheatham. Bill from Earth Tek.
Welcome. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Great. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Staying busy.
So, Bill, this is your first time, long-time listener, first-time caller?
Absolutely. First time. Yep.
Welcome to the podcast here. I think everyone's really excited to hear from you, kind of some of the work that you've been doing, as well as, how you got into the drone industry, and maybe you can share with the audience a little bit about yourself and then what you do and how you got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully someone can take a little bit of information from us today and apply it to their projects and really have a good outcome like I have and how I've seen it grow. So a little bit about myself is I got started in construction in the best time ever, 2008. Things were just great, awesome.
A record-setting year, but the wrong way.
Exactly. So, we started there in estimating, and by the end of the year, we weren't estimating anymore. But so we kind of did some computer programming, but in that, I got into modeling with different softwares for estimation and stuff, earthwork, cut fill analysis. Kind of kept doing that for a little while till construction kind of came back around, and started project managing and just growing through there. And through the evolution of doing different projects and technology changing from that time to now and all the automation with GPS, started getting a lot of calls about modeling because people knew that I had built different models. So 2 or 3 people called me that, hey, we've got a guy up north, we've got a guy down south, we're waiting months and months to build this stuff. Is there any way you could help us out? So yeah, like you had mentioned before, look for something that somebody's already paying for and how you can figure out to do it faster or quicker or better. And that's what I did is I looked at my market and said, there's no one sitting here trying to capitalize on this or trying to help these people speed up their process.
And where are you located?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Duval.
Yep.
Now, a couple things you said there that I think I'd like to see if you can expand on that a little bit. So you keep talking about modeling, and you also mentioned cut fill. So I think these are 2 things that could you help us, help the audience understand a little bit better about what exactly is modeling and what do you mean by modeling, and then kind of cut fill as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 different aspects when you talk about cut fill or modeling. Cut fill would be more in the estimation process. When you're bidding on the project, you want to know how much import to bring in, how much export to take out, strippings, and even down to the curb length and all that. But one thing, what we specialized on is just the earthwork moving. And that would be taking the existing topography in CAD, or a lot of times back then in 2008 was PDFs where you just kind of drew it out and then you draw out the design on top of that and say, here you go, throw it at the wall. That's our number.
Yeah.
But it definitely, even when we started Earth Tek, it evolved into everything was on the computer, CAD files and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the difference was it wasn't taking as long, but there were still inaccuracies. And that's how it kept evolving into what now is today LiDAR. I won't go that far yet, but
Bill, I can't imagine going from a PDF, what kind of inaccuracies you can get.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about a digitizing table, taping this out. If you had 5 different sheets for your grading, you're doing 5 different reports. It was wow. It was a beautiful thing to do.
Wow.
Assuming all the sheets matched. And
exactly. They weren't different scale. And it was literally different projects. If it was just 4 sheets to one McDonald, you had 4 McDonald projects and you added all the numbers together and made it work.
Wow. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. So that's the cut fill portion of it. When it comes to estimation, you can see maps to see what your cut or fill is in the pond or different things. But modeling then moves into the automation for GPS machine control. Once you've won the project, now you want to get out there and build it. And you guys kind of hit on it as far as you got a lot of surveying stakes to pound in the ground. You got a lot of silt fence to lay out, all sorts of things to set up the project. Well, one thing in the modeling business is we can build that to the correct elevation and give you all those things. So you don't have to wait on surveying. Now you still have to have your surveyor because you have to have it tied down to a point. But you don't have to wait on layout. And if somebody's running over your stake, it doesn't matter. You know where everything is. That's kind of the modeling is getting everything precision for the bulldozers, excavators to actually go dig and build that project.
And that's an actual file. That's an
actual file that we get put on a thumb drive, loaded into their data collector, localized on a base station, just like we would do with the MLID. And then it's loaded into that bulldozer or that GPS machine control, and they're fully automatic. They just steer, and the blade knows what to do, what percentage to be on, everything. So,
how cool is that, though? I mean, that's just super cool.
yeah, it's great. I mean, once I seen the ability to do that, that drew me in there. And then when I seen the market open up for it, I mean, it was for me. It was where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And Bill, are a lot of your sites, are they mass grade or?
No, there's most of them are finished grade. I mean, it's asphalt, curb, everything's in there. There are some mass grades.
Yeah.
You know, we've done landfills, we've done roadway projects, a lot of subdivisions, a lot of subdivisions.
So for the audience listening, what does mass grade mean? What's that?
So a mass grade would be more of just like kind of filling to a certain elevation, 2 or 3 feet above, maybe sloping the land some to natural contouring, but not really defining the curb line, defining the pitch of the road. And
it's like a rough grade.
Yeah, a rough grade, just kind of getting it out.
And then there's finished grade, and that's the final product.
And the finished grade would be coming in, actually putting in the slope of the roads, digging everything to the final tuned process to come pour the concrete, bring in the lime rock, things like that.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So even like, grading the surface below the road, right? So I think for everyone listening, right? So a road isn't just, one, piece of material. You have a substrate, you have some different, layers that go into this, and everything has to be graded, right?
And you have utilities under the road.
Absolutely. So even sometimes you have a utility file where we've laid in the invert and come up with the trench line, and the excavator just go right through there and dig out the trench line. And they're still fine tuning, plenty of fine tuning after that. But the mass hauling and the time of checking a level in a laser, it just cuts down the time immensely.
Right. So that's how. Okay. So I think we kind of diverted. So we talked a little bit about how you started getting this 2008 and the prime of the market. You saw this was a hot market. You said, I'm getting in here. And then you started, it was very manual back then. And then you started seeing some more demand for making these models.
Yep.
And this kind of led you into optimizing this process, is what I'm assuming, which led you into drones.
Yep, absolutely. So the more we did the modeling and the cut fill analysis for people and their estimations, what we seen was we would do the estimate for someone and know that 100,000 yards import was needed. And then we would also build the model. And then, we're not responsible for once it gets built, but through back and forth conversations, realized, it was 130,000 yards that we had to import. It was 90,000 yards. There were such big discrepancies between what it was on certain projects. And you would start realizing, where was the issue? Well, the issue, a lot of times you guys have hit on, was the topography, whether it be through just older methods or just way outdated information. I mean, the way they have to capture it works, but the accuracy there's a lot to be desired. So that started the process of where I looked into drones and photogrammetry like everyone else. And for the time it would have allotted for me to get out there versus model building and all that, the accuracies and precision wasn't there for me at that time. And then once I found LiDAR and kind of started sinking my teeth into that information, I knew that was what I stood for, and that's what I wanted to go with, is that precision.
I think it's interesting you say that about the accuracy, because this is always a point of contention, right, with surveyors and the new technology. And I think it happened whenever we went into robotics, robotic total stations. Same conversations we had then, same conversations we had when we went to GPSs. So it's just the evolution of the technology. But I think I want to hit on the head of this, because like inherently the GPS or total station or however you're getting your survey to make a topo, it is very accurate. But the issue is that the number of points that you're getting, it's like it would just take you forever to cover every square inch of a job site, right?
Yeah.
So inherently you're only getting some select areas that you're making judgment on. Either you're doing a grid, but ideally you're probably doing a grid with some more points along ridges or more points where there's highly slope changing, and then you're going to make a surface from that. And so the difference between, yes, maybe your 1 point is, 100th accurate, which they're not, but just saying, maybe in an ideal world, but you miss the 1,000 points in between that and the next point, and that's with the LiDAR, you're able to capture, millions of points a second and get that full picture.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean as well when it comes to accuracy, is not that what they're doing is wrong. It's just the amount of points that you can capture with LiDAR it's unreal. And there's no way a human could capture that many points anywhere near the amount of time or in the time. And it's a no-brainer when it comes to speed and accuracy, which is, what we try to.
Yeah, I pulled up my last construction site that I flew, and it had almost 100 points a square foot.
Yeah,
that's a little overkill there, Daniel.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Bill says that's a lot.
It's 90 acres, 100 points a square foot.
So, Bill, maybe you can talk a little bit about like going from, obviously an actual PDF or a printout into a more detailed map. So some of these inaccuracies, again, I agree with you. I think the surveying, they're very accurate, but it's just the quantity. But what could that result? Like, what have you seen in experience of like the cut fill being off and kind of financial ramifications of this process?
Yeah, so before I actually got into LiDAR and was full-fledged Earth Tek, even as a project manager on a site, we had a PDF of a nice Alta topo, a lot of contours, a lot of information. We built our estimate off of that in-house to subgrade. We knew how many hundreds of thousands of yards we needed to bring in. And then we get out there and we start moving dirt, and we're halfway there in our quantity, but not even a quarter of the way there in building up the site.
Oh my gosh.
And we had already noticed that there was a slope coming down throughout the middle, and anybody that's done work, if you touch the land, you've kind of already started the process and you're handcuffed at that point. And that's what happened, is we were a little bit handcuffed. Now they did work with us, and we had a great contractor we worked with, but we were talking about a 70,000 yard difference.
Wow.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that possibly we would have had to eat because we didn't maybe verify the topo at that time or realize the problem that we could have, or potentially they would have to come up with it. It was kind of we come up with a great solution to work out for that contractor, but that's awesome. That was a bad hit that could have happened.
That would have been really bad. Yeah, and I'm assuming on that job site too, it probably wasn't readily available from the original topo. To just looking at the site, you probably couldn't be like, oh, maybe there's some trees or shrubs or.
No, it was like just a low spot that you really couldn't see or have a chance to notice that it was a 7-foot drop in the middle of the site. It was a bad issue. And the topo did show it sloped that way, but I believe me and Daniel talked about it before, where it was up against kind of a wetland, and the surveyors didn't go in the wetland, and that was the problem. There was a lot of missing information where LiDAR would have saved our tail, because we would have got every square inch all the way down. So.
That's just crazy if you think about it, how much money that could cost. I mean, gosh, that's so much.
Since then, I've had another project where there was an existing topo to the design that showed X amount of yards. And this actually happened to be the same person that wanted me to go fly it. They, now that we're years down the road, they know the process. So they wanted me to go fly this project to check the topo, because it had been cleared since the existing one. Well, there was a lot of chipping material. By our calculations, a good 4 to 5 inches of chipping material, which resulted in about 30,000 yards they didn't know they had to take off of the site. And once again, they worked it out internally because there was an issue. But if it didn't, that's 30,000 yards of chipping material, which is wood chips ground up there. That's not dirt. That's sellable.
Can't use it.
Where it was located was too close to the port and the airport. You couldn't burn it. It was going to have to be hauled somewhere at an enormous cost that somebody would have had to incur. So.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. Yeah, that just shows you the importance of having good information. Or like now that we can get LiDAR data relatively quickly, these can just answer the question for you right away, and then you don't have to worry about that as an even possibility now.
Absolutely. And the way, the evolution of how I see it going for these particular people that I deal with, and we can talk about that more, is the developers and the engineers, I think, will now see the use in it, and will try to get with me or people locally to do the same thing to go ahead and have that mitigated. That way, when the bid comes in, it's true numbers. No one has to adjust. No one has to eat it. No one has to have the problem. They can, have the most accurate number from day one.
Yeah, that's super important. So now I kind of want to talk a little bit about. So you talked a little bit about your history. You got into this, and it sounds like you worked in construction, doing some of this work prior for another company, but then somewhere along the way, you decided to start Earth Tek and get out there and do it yourself and start hustling, hitting the ground running. So yeah, can you want to tell us a little bit about how did you start Earth Tek, and then how are you doing today, and maybe some success stories?
Yeah. So Earth Tek, like I said, I got a bunch of calls from people asking about modeling. Did I know anybody that built it? Was I willing to build it? So I seen the opening, and I started Earth Tek, and started doing models for a few local people. And it's really started to hit off, and they liked it because of the time frame that they were waiting on other people. So I just kept calling every company I could think of, and even then, a lot of people weren't using it. So I was kind of introducing it to them, and they were really liking it. And then more of the evolution was we got a couple of national contractors that we started doing estimates for. Cool. And they really liked the early acquisition process, because they're having that same issue of someone telling them a number that's inaccurate way early, and then after they've spent millions of dollars on the land and going down there, they've now got to take the hit. So we've helped to mitigate that with other people. So that it's just the evolution of supplying estimates for earthwork projects. We do utility earthwork or estimates. The modeling is the big thing, but that's what evolved. And what else could we do to help really get these guys the best information to start making the projects faster and to stop headaches? And that was getting into drones. Drones was the next thing. It started off as pictures and videos, and like I said, I never really did the photogrammetry. I couldn't do it, so I did the monitoring for a while. The LiDAR was going to be the big ticket. So finally, we bid off on it, and it's just been a game changer. Since we've done that, we've done stockpile analysis. Our contractor had a project that all they had to do was a mass grade level, and when they pulled up, there's a 20-foot tall pile of dirt sitting there that no one knew about. We were able to fly that in 10 minutes, tell him it was 20,000 yards, and he didn't have to guess. There was no guessing as to what it was. And
that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. So this is your company, right?
Yes. Yep.
So you started, and then you started doing this work. And so tell me a little bit what your experience was. Kind of like as an entrepreneur, as starting your own business. Did you wait till you had some work before you departed your existing job, or how did you make that leap from employee to employer?
Yeah, so I actually had a great contractor that I worked with. He was always like a mentor to me more than just a boss. So when I went to start with him, it was right when I had started Earth Tek on the side, and I told him, like, hey, my goal is to work for myself, to build this company up, and to try to really help people. And he knew how I was and how I wanted to be, so he encouraged it, and we started working alongside each other on his projects. And then I would build Earth Tek in the evening and any free time I had. I did that for about 1.5 years till, it was very sustainable at that point, and jumped off. And I'm 5 years and 5 months into it now. And
heck yeah.
It just keeps on growing every year. I try to do more projects and as accurate as I can be, and keep the speed up as well. That was one thing that I really tried to do, was not make these people, the more clients I got, to wait longer. I really wanted to have that 2-week time frame, no matter how many people we had.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, you burnt that midnight oil. You put in the after hours work to get it off the ground. A lot,
hundreds of hours.
Well, and I think that's a good message for people who are like thinking about getting into, this kind of work. Is like, you can do it. You gotta hustle though. It is like hustling. It is relationships. Sounds like you knew people and you made relationships.
Absolutely. That was one of the biggest things I learned through like the mentorship that he would give me, or any of the projects or companies I worked for, was meet these people, do what you say you're going to do, and deliver on time. So by doing so, I could really make a connection with these people. And then a lot of these companies, through the years, I'd worked with somebody, so I would use that relationship to get myself in the door to say, give me a shot, and a couple people turned me down because I was still working for the local guy. But a couple people said, okay, I'll give you a shot. And I'm still working for them today. There's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, but there's a lot of reward and a lot of fun that comes with it, because I can chase the technology. I can evolve into LiDAR. There's so much that can go, and it's great.
Bill, I hear a couple things, as you're talking about that. I hear one is that something we run into a lot now with drones that you've already been through on the modeling side is you're educating your customer on why they need it. And then on not the flip side of that, but going with it is they already know where they want to go. They know what the end result is. And you're just having to convince them to pay you on the route you want to take to get there, whether it's a drone or whatever. I mean, that doesn't even really matter, right? You're using the LiDAR, not because LiDAR is cool, but it is. But you're using it because, hey, I can finish tomorrow, not next week. That Absolutely. Timeline, building that relationship, that's the important part. LiDAR is just what's getting you there.
Yep. Absolutely. And like I'll say it a lot here, is just speed and accuracy is why LiDAR trumped photogrammetry, and not that things don't have their use case. It's not traditional surveying that it doesn't have its use case, but it was the speed and accuracy. And we can talk about that one project where it was quick, that we had to get it done, and there's no way humanly possible or feasible could it have been done that fast.
What project is that? Why don't we go ahead and kick off and talk? It sounds like you have a cool story to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have one of the contractors that I build models for. I actually built a mass grade model originally for this project. It's like a 25-acre multi-home townhome complex. So that we originally built mass grade. And as developers do, they change their mind about halfway through it and decide they want to go to finish grade. So we built a model for finish grade. And just to keep up with that tradition, they did it a third time and decided that they just wanted to halt right now and go to another project. So that brings us to where the time frame came in as the halt. They had I got the call on a Thursday from our mutual surveyor that does work for them, that said, hey, we have a project where we believe your LiDAR machine can really shine. The issue is they have to work this is Thursday. We have to work up until Friday at about 5:00. They're going to demobilize. We need you to fly over the weekend because we need the data by Monday to sign off on and deliver by Monday afternoon.
Wow.
The original solutions before calling were getting every rover in the company and having everybody go across the site and take rover shots.
Oh my gosh.
But rover shots are not even, rover shots are not total station shots or anything else. So they're not going to have the greatest of accuracies, plus the time. So the other one option was the surveying company have 2 or 3 crews come over there and work all weekend. And that was just dollar amount wise. No one really wanted to bite that if they didn't have to. So we had taught projects before, so they knew about a range of where they could be for a project like this. And also told them the time frame of what we could deliver, that this thing is lightning fast and accuracy through the roof. So our assignment was to show up Saturday morning, capture it, and give them the data by Monday. So that's what we did. Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So by Monday.
Yes.
And you're flying the ROCK system, right?
Right. You're right. So we got the ROCK R2A on the M300. We got the MLID RS2 for our base station. So, it's one thing that a lot of people know is the hardest part, even localization and machine control, was finding the control point that morning. It took 45 minutes to find one that wasn't under trees, that wasn't under dirt, that wasn't under a car. So we finally located one that was really nice. And I mean, from there, you go through the process of clicking all the components together, do your flight checklist and calibrate it, and you're off to the races.
How long did the whole day take at the site?
The whole day. So even the night. So what I like to do is the night before, and this is the beauty of how it works. And Pilot 2 is the night before, I'll set up the project in Google Earth, get the perimeter, go ahead and load everything up. It's all good to go. That maybe takes, you just call it 30, 45 minutes at the longest to really get it completely calibrated. So then you show up the next morning from setup, finding the control points, flying, the whole process, landing, packing up. I might have been there an hour and a half.
And half of it was finding control.
And then, like I said, half of it was finding control.
That's awesome.
The other half was we were freezing, putting up all the stuff. It was like 25 degrees that day. The one day actually.
That's like negative 50 in Florida.
Well, and that was and that's the beauty of what else it can do. That was is Florida, and it was 25 degrees, so we could accomplish anything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty awesome. That's
how long did the actual flight take? 25 acres, 15 minutes?
Yeah, it wasn't 25 maybe, because I do fly pretty slow. I'm still slow. But I don't have to. That's the other part is the bigger the project. No, I don't fly as slow because I got less time to be there.
Right,
the accuracy doesn't change.
That's awesome.
And I think we have this is what the article that we wrote together is about, this 25-acre job, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about this specific use case, this 48 hours, 25-acre job that got kind of last minute thrown on Bill's lap, and how we got out there and got it delivered by Monday morning, we have a nice article written together with Bill. We'll put the link somewhere here. It's going to be below in whatever format you're watching this video in right now. If you're on Facebook, it'll be on the Facebook group, YouTube on the links, and LinkedIn will be on the comments. But that's awesome. So Bill, you've been doing this now for 5.5 years, you said, right?
Yep, 5.5 years.
What do you think what do you think 2023 looks like? So we have a little bit of a slump, maybe.
Sure. It's hard to say because we do have developers and we do have contractors. The developers haven't slowed as much as I thought they might have. So that seems very promising. And contractors are still calling, so it's not too bad yet.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't think it's going anywhere, but maybe a little dip for a minute. But
I think this is a different industry than buying Twitter.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's not do that. I've heard it doesn't go so well.
No, I think we're talking about construction, and definitely here in the U.S. they passed that $1 trillion infrastructure bill. It's still getting dispersed, and I think that's going to keep the construction industry happy and alive, through anything.
Absolutely.
And one thing with the whole industry too is there's still not enough people. At every step of the game. Bill saw that and started his whole business around it. There's just nobody doing it where he was at. But, whether it's, out in the field, labor style, skilled labor, even unskilled, it doesn't even matter. Just there's not enough bodies. And especially with drone mapping, whether it's photogrammetry or LiDAR, but, it's essentially 2 people in a box, maybe more than that. When I was doing it for surveying, it was 4.5 people in 1 year that I didn't have to hire. Not that I wouldn't have. I would have given them something else to do, but I couldn't. They're just not there. And so, like Bill said, starting out in 2008, there's so many people that just said, nope, not doing this. And then basically that's probably never going to happen again. And the people still aren't there. So we got on these construction sites and doing progress monitoring. Like there's no human being that will go do it, because the human rate to do this at the drone, if you converted drone hours.
Hold on. There's Bill. We got Bill.
Yeah,
I'm still here.
He's still here, guys. No, I'm joking. He's sarcastic.
Huh? I get excited. Bill wants to hear it too.
Oh no, I totally agree.
But Bill, just talk a little bit about how you've run into the issue of we don't have enough people, we don't have enough time, and is that what's keeping everybody busy because there's so much work and so little few people?
Yeah, well, there's still a lot of projects out there to be built, and it's definitely between the contractors, it's definitely a fight for people and finding any kind of help. I see a lot of subcontractors just for moving dirt or laying utilities. So there's a lot to be done out there. There's still a lot to be had.
Hey, Bill, how do people get a hold of you?
They can find me at earthtekgps.com.
earthtekgps.com.
Yep. Earth Tek LLC at gmail.com. And then we have an Instagram. I'll have to get that to you after. Instagram, we've got a YouTube channel that we're trying to get going a little bit.
Heck yeah.
So we're, you can kind of find us anywhere. LinkedIn's big. We post a lot on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And then we have a Facebook page too. So.
Yep. I like LinkedIn. It's been my go-to for this industry for a while.
Yep. It's just the Facebook of the industry where you straight to the nuts and bolts of things.
Yep. I definitely agree. Well, awesome, Bill. That's been very enlightening for me, and I know for everyone watching, just hearing your story, and then how you got into this, and kind of honestly just this story arc of going from where it was, 5-10 years ago, 2008, more than 10 years, yeah, and then now where it's at today. I mean, it's amazing how it's growing, and then touching at the top of the hour with Daniel, how many different use cases people are now using. In addition to doing what they were doing, now we're doing pre-bid, we're doing during the grade process, we're doing as-builts. It's kind of this whole many times during one project, this technology is being used. So not only can we not find people to do what we were doing, but now there's more things to do. Mm-hmm. And so now we got more to do with less people. So it's even more of a, demand-driven industry.
And everybody wants their information now. So that's where LiDAR and all that can really help that.
That's awesome. So why don't we go ahead and take it to some Q&A, some audience questions, and see what people got for us. Okay, here we got our first question. When you fly LiDAR, would you recommend flying with an overlap of 66%, so you have photos for the RGB and have additional overlap for photogrammetry?
No, I don't. I personally just don't use the photogrammetry. I mean, it's simple as that for me. But what would you guys recommend?
I still do it. I still fly with overlap just so I can, just in case shit, I'll have the photos.
I do fly with overlap, just not that much. It's about 30%.
Yeah. I mean, I probably do 50.
Yep. Like that. So 30%, 50%, and the question is about 66%.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, I think, if you do 50%, you have enough information there to make a good ortho.
Yeah, I've made some on construction at 40 with no holes in it too. It does depend on the site. If it's canopy, it's way different than construction.
Right. So it's totally nothing there. It's easy to do. Yeah, I'd say the other thing is like, are you trying to make a full 3D model from the ortho or just a 2D? Because if
which you don't really need to do if you're flying LiDAR simultaneously.
Yeah,
use case, I would think.
Yeah, not at all. Question number 2: how do these techniques and this equipment apply or not in the environmental? I didn't see the end of the question, guys.
I think restoration realm. I like the
environmental restoration realm. Okay.
Yeah. That caught my attention.
Daniel, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I did this as an environmental scientist. We hired LiDAR and photogrammetry. I did photogrammetry. Did a lot of environmental restoration with wetland mitigation banks and creek restoration, documenting the construction because you need it. It's the same process. It's just different use. You want to see what it looks like before. You get a design from that, and then you monitor it during, and then you as-build at the end. It's the exact same thing we're talking about with Bill. You can also use that for floodplain modeling. Any kind, it's the same data, right? I mean, the key here is you're getting the data for the professionals that know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking at a topo for construction, I'm looking at, like Bill is probably saying, I'm looking at lot pads for houses. If I'm doing it for environmental science, I'm usually looking for low spots for drainage, where I need to do stormwater improvements for environmental engineering, that kind of stuff. But you definitely can. I have. It works really well. Makes for some really cool videos too.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for whoever asked that question.
It was me.
It was Danny. You fed that question to yourself.
Yeah, all the questions are me.
It's all. No, I think we have a lot of people. I don't know how many people are watching right now. Do we have anyone know? Anyone in the background who's watching this?
It was like 70 something a little bit ago, maybe.
That's
maybe
awesome.
More. 7,000 now, I think.
Curtis wrote 3.
Yeah, there's at least 5.
64. Awesome. What is your preferred flight planning method? You said pilot. You use pilot too.
Yeah, I like your approach, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I use Google Earth to set out a perimeter, kind of get it where I want it to be, put it in pilot too, and just map it out from there. It's pretty straightforward and simple. And that way when you're ready to go, check, ready to fly.
Yeah, I think the new update with Pilot 2, which allows you to download it's not SRTM, it's another 3D data set.
Yeah, I can't even pronounce it.
Something like this.
Yeah, AstroDim or something.
Yeah, so now you can do the train following right from your controller. Before you had to download a DEM from some online database and then put that on an SD card, put it in your controller, and that's how you'd have to do train following. But now you can do it all right there from your controller. So I agree with you, Bill. I think Pilot 2 is now pretty sweet.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What is your preferred flight planning app?
Just answered it.
Pilot 2.
Yeah, there we go.
Are there easy ways to do additional ground classification? Daniel.
Well, you can use Rock Cloud and Rock Surveyor to do the classification. You can manually classify it too in Rock Cloud if you want. It depends on your use case. You can do whatever you need to do.
Bill, are you using Rock Cloud for all this?
Yeah, so that was one thing we didn't actually touch on a lot was the cloud process. I mean, it's super simple. Once I got back from that flight, I uploaded that. I did the pre-processing on a PC Master and PC Painter. That took 30 minutes. Then it took 45 minutes or so to run its thing. Uploaded it, checked everything, and clicked ordered my contours. And I think I had them back in less than 24 hours. But yeah, as far as go back to that question, classification, I haven't used it a whole lot yet, but I'm pushing it a lot as planimetrics. And that's another evolution to what we're doing is like on a potential project we're looking at now. It's a 200-acre golf course that's going to get turned into a residential. Well, the planimetrics and LiDAR would give us the topography plus all the cart paths, buildings, greens, sand pits. So yeah, the classification in the cloud is nice.
And Bill, usually, I mean, we do like, you can do regular processing, but you expedite stuff, right? You like that option?
Yeah, I usually expedite everything because where I'm at, the same with modeling and all that, I'm always in the last minute situation. It has to be done quickly. Either by the time I got a chance to fly it or just the time frame they give me to capture it or that I've promised to capture it.
But you're including that in your bid, right? I mean, you're assuming that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If I'm going to expedite it, it's going to be a little upcharge for that. But for the data and what they receive, no complaints.
That's awesome. So yeah, you decided to go the Rock Cloud, didn't do a desktop software, No,
I'm full-fledged Rock. I mean, it's the ease and workflow is there, man. The workflow is awesome.
That's good to hear. Well, definitely, I like hearing any feedback so we can make things better too.
Yeah, I mean, if you made a drone, I would buy the drone.
Well, we have some interesting things happening. We'll be announcing later this week, and then some more things coming out later this year that I think will surprise. It'll surprise a lot of people what we're trying to do, and I think it'll be people probably go, "What?
Is that what I sounded like?"
That's what everyone sounded like.
What'd you say, Harrison?
Oh yeah, that's what we're doing.
Another thing that I haven't even used, but I'm pushing it as well to some of my developers that do more interior stuff is SLAM. It just making the full package. I mean, think about that. If you had the LiDAR data along with the planimetrics, along with the SLAM data on the interior, I mean, you've saved so much time and aggravation for someone else, and you have the true as-built, because a lot of times you may have planned this on a blueprint and then they got there and that door didn't go where it needed to be because of whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah. That same issue of with the site of maybe this golf course was designed this way, but for some reason over the years they did a change and didn't as-built it. All these things are going to save people time and money, and bring us work. So.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a lot of work and more work is being created and less people to do the work. So it's an interesting time, very interesting time to be in this industry. When I started doing the LiDAR, it was nobody knew about it, other than people that bought it from an airplane. And so it was cool to see the adoption and so many use cases. And now, like you, Bill, people being really successful with it. Let's jump into this next question. Is there a way to sell generated topo and planimetric services when the drone operator is not a PLS? How could I market and legally sell these services?
Oh, Bill, are you a PLS?
Am I?
Yeah.
No.
So what do you do?
Oh, so I don't sell them. I provide them to them. or I provide them to a contractor for information purposes only. And that's where we go back to talking about the surveyors. They are needed. We're not licensed land surveyors. We're mapping, and we're tying that back down to generator points. And then if you ever do get on the cloud and you run it and you see that you're within 1,000th of accuracy on a survey control point, then I could hang my hat on it that's true accuracy projects.
So I think the data acquisition, like you said, mapping services, data acquisition services, and you're providing this to a land surveyor, you're providing this to someone who has.
And that's what that 25-acre project, although I built for that company as their model builder, our mutual surveyor is the one that contacted me. So I provided them, they did their check on it, and then they signed off that it was right. So you cannot say that they're truly right as far as not being a surveyor, but there are things you can do with them. You provide the service to someone else.
Totally, and I'd say liken that to like even in a surveying firm, from just as surveying only, they'll have their licensed land surveyor, but is that the guy that's on the field?
Exactly.
That's walking around, going through the bushes? No.
Exactly.
This is a young person who's training, or they're just in the field. So it's very similar. It's a similar kind of thing.
Yep.
Where this is the delineation. They're just providing data to the PLS. You're just providing data to them, and so that's how it follow up. Under what circumstance is a PLS required?
So if you were wanting to provide an as-built that was signed and sealed, or a true topography that was, going to be used for plans or engineering, then you would need a land surveyor. But you would be in contact with that one. Either the developer or the surveyor probably contacted you.
Exactly.
To provide that service. So.
Yep, exactly. So, ideally you go out and talk to these licensed land surveyors, and that's how you're drumming up business, really.
Absolutely. Yep. I started with a contract, just for me personally, I started with the contractors just because the same way the evolution of everything else went, that's who I knew. And then from there, I went to surveyors and developers to provide the service.
Yep, exactly. I think that's the right way to do it, because, there definitely is when you're signing and sealing a deliverable, or you're submitting something to the county, or, you're getting something inspected on, that's really these surveyors are needed right there to verify, and everything is correct, because at the end of the day, like, shit needs to be correct.
Yep.
And so that is where that onus is on that surveyor to make sure that the things are correct there. So let's jump into the next question. When marketing to do periodic volumetric during earthwork, who do you target? Owner, contractor, CM, etc.
The answer is yes.
Yes. All of them. You would probably, like me personally, I would target the contractor first, because I've probably already built their model for them. If they don't want to use it, or I know the developer, then I would go for the developer next, and right on up the food chain. I mean, no need to jump over anybody in the process, but start with who you know. If you have more relationship with developers and engineers, then that's where you start. Just in my order of how I work, I've got contractor connects. And that's who's going to probably want it more than anyone, because of the monitoring of the volume, like Daniel had hit on. Instead of clicking over there, they've got a lot tighter calculation. And totally. Then more likely the GC has required that, or vice versa.
Awesome. Question. Talk about the pros and cons of approaching potential clients about using LiDAR. Most common obstacles in those conversations. Are people shaking their fist at the LiDAR, Bill?
No one's has a con, and there are no cons. Tell everybody about it. Try to push it everywhere. What'll happen is someone hasn't been burned bad enough yet, or they're not worried about being burned for some reason. That honestly is where it is. Anybody that's been in there long enough can see the potential. Maybe they're being cheap and they don't want to spend the money, but as soon as they take a bad hit, they're gonna decide that it's something that they need to look into.
Doing it without it. Yeah, doing it without it. They've been burnt before. Like they either from one of these PDFs.
Yeah. The two that I talked about, I mean, had those companies had to take those hits, those two burns would have been very bad. Probably together $500,000. I mean, no one wants to take that.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
Oh, all right.
That's a lot of money.
That's so much money, guys. Is there a specific niche of clients or companies to reach out to first starting out? Construction companies, surveyors. I think we kind of answered that question already, but reach out to all of them.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, it just depends on who you feel like you have the better network with. If it's contractors, go for contractors. If you're starting off with absolutely nothing, I'd probably target surveyors first.
Yeah,
because they're the ones already kind of doing the surveying work.
Right.
And just make you a list of what problems you're solving, who needs that problem solved, and then just go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good too, talking to the surveyor first. I think that's actually where I got my first jobs from, was a local surveying firm in St. Louis. And they also did a lot of different work too, and they hired me out doing some LiDAR work, and I'd provide them these the LAS files at the time. And then I was manually classifying and trying to generate surface models from them. And then at the time it wasn't so easy.
No.
But it was hard fought, and that's how I got my first jobs. And I think those relationships lasted for a long time. And
and I like to target them to let them know that this option is here, and we're not the enemy. We're here to provide a service for you. I mean, you may not want to have to hire a full crew that does this or do all these things, and that's what I'm here to do to save you time and trouble. So.
Totally. And I'd say there's also there's a lot of companies before the drone time that were doing just aerial data acquisition with airplanes.
Yeah.
And, these companies it was someone who owned a Cessna or a King Air, and they got some cameras, and they started flying and making maps for people. And they would provide them also to surveyors. It was a very similar parallel to what we're talking about here today. And I think one job I did was like 3,000 acres down in Texas, and they had the airplane LiDAR they did a year before. And then they asked us to do drone LiDAR, and the airplane LiDAR was almost 3 feet off.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was very
altitude and speed. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have much more. You have to have a lot better equipment to fly high and fast. So,
one of our clients was kind of the same way. They're a large landowner here in this region, and they had a bunch of pre-flight data. And anytime we go do a little parcel, there's always a discrepancy between what they had and what's truly there.
Mm-hmm. That's when you run into money problems.
Yep.
When sending links to clients, do you send them directly on how the site functions, offer a video chat, or do they know what to do?
What do you do, Bill?
When sending links to clients, I guess
for deliverables, when you're done.
I guess all your deliverables. I mean, depending on what the client needs. So if it's a surveyor, I'm probably just packaging up the CAD data in a zip file, sending it over, because they know what to do at that point. If it's a contractor, I probably won't even send them that, because they don't know what they're doing with the data, or I'm just going to send them a cut fill analysis or something. So each case is just different as to what someone needs. Surveyors are going to need the full CAD data as well, so it just depends on what service and to who you're providing it to.
Yeah. So you send the data, and then if they need to talk about it, you talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. If they want to talk, we talk. If they don't, we don't.
Here's a good one. Talking about, this is a site coordinates. So how do you deal with CRS that are not in your system? I have some customers shooting local title datums.
I haven't run into the issue myself.
Yeah, you can do so in the ROCK Cloud. We have grid to ground conversions. We also have you're able to, usually if they're running in a title datum or they're running in some other local coordinate system,
like a construction site might be.
Yep, like construction site, or their architectural firm might be running in some sort of 5,000 or something. You can do all those reprojections in the ROCK Cloud. So we have a special drop down inside the reprojection, so you can actually go do scale factors. You can. We also have a custom
CRS.
Custom CRS. So all that's easily done there. And then
you just need like common points in the custom and known. So state plane or whatever it might be, wherever you're at. And then we're just moving it.
Yep. Scaling it, false northing, false easting.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. And if you have any questions about that, I think there's some articles about it on learn.rockrobotic.com. And then you can also chat into the chat bubble. Someone will answer you. Daniel will answer you.
Probably me.
Or me.
Yeah.
Probably Daniel. Okay, I think this is our last question for today's live stream. Are there any plans to customize PC Master more to add features like filter, corners, or edges? Yes. That's a great last question.
Yeah.
the answer is yes. There is some updates happening, and some of the stuff we're doing this year, I think you guys will find pretty interesting. But we'll talk about that next time. So that is the end of our podcast today. I think we can wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming on today. It's been wonderful hearing your success story and how you've gotten into this industry and how you've really seen it from paper to digital and made a great product and a great business for yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on today and giving me a chance to kind of talk about what I did. And I hope that a lot of people can grab something from it and get on the journey, man. It's awesome.
Hell yeah. Well, if you guys want to reach Bill, I'm sure you can reach him at his website. What was it? Earth Tek?
EarthTekGPS.com or Earth Tek LLC at gmail.com.
There you go. So reach out to Bill if you have any questions, or reach out to our community here on Facebook. Ask questions. We'll be answering more questions throughout the week. At any time, you can ask questions or answer questions if you know the answers to. Whoever's watching knows answers. That's great. And next Tuesday, I believe, let me see, Tuesday, January 17th is our next time we're going to do a live stream. And we're going to announce the guest very soon. That's 2 weeks from today. So make sure you mark your calendars. Stop working in the middle of the day like we do to do these, and take a break and listen to some people talk about drone money. So that one, we'll see you here next time, guys.
Thanks, guys.